Are you capturing the sounds of you typing? Are you capturing the sounds of you typing? Oh. I'm gonna go for it. It's like, good evening, everyone. Welcome to General Assembly. It's nice to see you in your summer-themed clothing. Secretary Moeller.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There you are. Could you please take attendance?
I would love to. All right. Representative Bagat. Representative Brown. Representative Han. Representative Shengbo Wang. Representative Matthews. Representative In. Representative Mikowski. Representative Owaputi. Representative Rodensick. Representative Smith. Representative Dorabek. Representative Stephen Lee. Representative Cecilia Lee. Representative Law. Representative Hoffman. Representative Lupton. Representative Cummins. Representative Zoltan. Representative Renard. Representative Schillo. Representative Beckett. Representative Fernandez. Representative McCachran. Representative Rosenberger. Representative Irizarry. Representative Iannitti. Representative Lendell. Representative Hong. Representative Park. Representative McKee. Representative Schloff. Representative Gallo. Representative Sabe. Representative DeBaz. Representative Fitch. Representative Singh. Representative Cruz. Representative Zhu. Did I say that wrong? How do I say it? Zoe. Representative Grialis. Representative Leo Lee. Skylar Thompson. Mai Sagawa. Joe Wang. Neil O'Brien. Colin Lux. Colin Williams. Speaker Pulaski.
Present.
Treasurer Shah. Treasurer Moser. Parliamentarian Brubaker. Vice President Maloney. Vice President Bell. Vice President Hamilton.
President voting.
Vice President Downey. Vice President Agarwal. President Nguyen.
Are there any guests with us tonight? If you could stand. Yeah, this is Margaret Carney, who is our university architect and planner, and she's actually going to be giving us a brief synopsis of what it is that she does so that USG can kind of have the inside scoop on what's going on with the university. So you can go ahead and take the podium. Oh, I'm sorry, after the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and now for our guest speaker.
time I come to any student meeting, I'm so impressed with the orderliness, which you perceive as a group. I mean, it's quite impressive. A lot of the faculty and staff meetings. So much. Just about everything else that happens in terms of buildings and grounds on the campus, and buildings and grounds within University Circle that impact us, and things that happen even within the city of Cleveland, the state of Ohio, and the United States that have to do with what happens in educational environments. So I have to say, sometimes I think I have the most complex job maybe on campus, but also probably the most fun job, because I get to work with everybody. So it's been a very intense 7 years, and what I'm going to show you tonight is just a snippet, but hopefully they are the key projects that you may have been hearing about over the last month or so since you've been back. And a lot of people haven't seen what you're going to see tonight because really we don't have very many forums where we can show this kind of information. So this is really exciting. I just spent some time today and pulled off the most, the freshest images. How do I advance the slides? Can I just click on your computer?
I can do
No.
Oh, no, it's okay. I got it.
Okay, so the key things we're going to talk about after just like about 2 minutes on the master plan itself.
I got it. Hang on.
Thank you. Okay. Does that work? It'll help?
It'll pick you up.
All right, thank you. I'll try to talk loud enough to that projects. So, TV. So the master plan I'm going to talk about just briefly as an overview, but then you can go look at it yourself online because it is online, and it's a pretty interesting document just to take a look at. But also because part of the reason I really was excited about coming here and working with the Compass Group, who I hope you all know about, and also working with the student reps on the Climate Action Plan, is that we want your input. In the past, there has been input pretty much only when there was a problem. And we think that's not the right way to go. I think having your input as we're thinking about things way in advance and really being part of the creative process is really a great place for student engagement. And we don't have a history of that on this campus. But we're starting that now, and we're building that now. And we're into our second year of the Compass Group, which Mintry and I co-chair, and it's been fabulous. We have a bunch of you here tonight to talk about that at another time. But then we'll talk about these sort of key projects. So this is our campus master plan. Has anybody here never seen this drawing? Is there anyone who has never seen this? Okay, see, so we are not getting this out at all. You can see from the date it was 2005. So, a lot happens every year. So this is sort of outdated, but in fact, the master plan was done trying to look ahead 10 years. It was a time where we were looking at not only sort of architecture on the campus, but also transportation and parking, all of the utilities, so the steam lines, electricity, water, it sounds kind of boring, but pretty critical. We were looking at life safety issues, we were looking at landscape, and we were looking also at basically space utilization. How much square footage do we have for every single kind of function or activity that takes place on a campus? Basically, we're a small city. The one thing we lack is retail, but other than that, we are really made up of all the components that a city has. And so looking at all of it at one time is sort of like orchestrating what it takes to put any other community together. The 4 planning principles that you see on the side may seem obvious to you, especially if you've been around the campus for a couple of years. But this campus never was planned as one place, like many, many campuses were. It was really always 2 different places. It started out as 2 separate institutions, which have merged across time, and across Euclid Avenue, which was sort of meant to be a border to separate us instead of bring us together. So there are some real big challenges on this campus to unify the campus so that for you, it's one place and it feels like one experience. Also within University Circle, there's a lot of competition for identity. So Mintry just told me the UH sign on the corner was taken down today. If you don't know what that is, when you go out and you cross Euclid, at that intersection where it's so tight, that big UH sign has been on Case property for a number of years. And we have worked really hard to get that down so we could open up that corner, and it finally happened today. Couldn't have been at a better moment. So that is there's a lot of overlap between institutions, and it's hard to know where the Case campus is. So I think we have made some big improvements over the last 5 years, but we have a lot more still to do. Fostering an environment of living, learning, and discovery really talks about creating a place where the experience is continuous, as opposed to feeling like you walk from the housing into a completely different world of academia. There are study spaces in the village, for example. There are classrooms that become meeting rooms like this at night, so that there's more of an overlap between living and learning. There's, in Leutner, for example, if anybody uses that facility, now there's a space where you can study at night. It used to close down. After the food was gone, you lock it up, you leave it. The building was empty when everybody needed space to study for 24 hours. So we were able to make that happen. It's not easy, but little steps like that are really helping us to change, so there's more space for everybody to use. Focusing outward as a planning principle is, to me, one of the most important things that we have worked on. And what this means is not turning our back on this community, but to really turn the campus outward so that we engage within the community physically, as well as not just volunteering to help out, but that we really create an environment so all of you can take advantage of all the other things that are in University Circle. I think it's probably why a lot of you came here. And it isn't always easy to be able to get to these different places around here and take advantage of them. So those are the guiding principles that we've used, sort of moving forward at this time. And I also want everybody just to be aware of this, which is that our work, my work in terms of planning and design, is really to support the academic mission of the university and also to stay in line with the financial goals of the university, be responsible from a fiscal standpoint. So that triangle of academic planning, financial planning, and physical planning is the way that I work with other administrators and people on the campus. It's very integral. I have a lot of ideas I could talk about that have no basis in reality, but they wouldn't be worthwhile. They have to be things that support the mission of the university. So when you look online, if you just go to just put in a search for the campus master plan, you'll find a whole series of drawings that looked at what we think needs to happen long-term to accomplish those basic principles, and sort of looked at it not so specifically that we designed every building and said exactly how much square footage would go there, but they're big long-term goals. It's a framework for development. So even now, after 5 years, the plan is pretty current. We haven't been able to accomplish a lot of the things in that plan. This particular sheet shows this yellow sort of blob right here in the middle of campus, right here. Let's see if this will work. There we go. So this is the site for the new campus center that we're going to talk about. And what it talks about in the master plan, here's Euclid, Severance Hall, Kelvin Smith Library. What that talks about is that when you look at the master plan, you can see that that site is right in the middle of the campus. It is literally the geographic center of the campus. And it was chosen partly so that from Bellflower, from coming across from Euclid and going across to the West Campus, that building will be visible within University Circle. It will start to create a sense that there is a center to this campus and that there's one building, one place that really belongs to everyone on this campus. It will be heavily focused, obviously, on student activities, but we want to make sure that graduate and professional students know that they can go there, that your faculty members will go there to have lunch, and that the idea is for people to all mix together, not just to segment students out away from people. But this is the kind of thing that's discussed in that master plan drawing or document. So let's talk a little bit about the University Center. I'm sure everybody's heard about it probably for the whole time you've been on campus. Anybody been here more than 4 years? 3 years? Couple. So this has gone on for almost 15 years, I think, this discussion about this. So you are here at a really historic moment when this building is actually going to move forward. Case is a sort of typical university in the sense that there are lots of silos. We call it each tub on its own bottom because there's a sort of profit and loss center within each of the schools and colleges. That does not really foster integration. Doesn't really foster interdisciplinary work or really collegiality among all the players here on the campus. So it's difficult sometimes to be able to break out of a school that you're in, especially graduate and professional programs, and be part of the university as a whole. And that's really the purpose of the University Center. It's to give meeting spaces so that on a night like this, you would be meeting in the middle of a building that has lots of other student groups working right nearby on activities. People would be in the Inamore Center for Ethics talking about, projects that they're working on. So at night, there would be this hub of activity instead of everybody sort of scattered all over the campus. So the center is really the center. And this kind of space that it lists social gathering spaces, a little bit of dining, some recreation, although not a big rec center. It's not really that focus, but it's mostly about putting meeting spaces together, having some food there, having one huge event space that you would be able to use for performances of certain types. It's not a theater, but it's a 10,000 square foot room. So that is about twice the size of the Twing Ballroom, just for comparison. And so lots of different kinds of events could take place here that we really now have to either rent the tent and put them outside or go off campus and rent space off campus. So we think this is going to add a huge different dimension. And probably the most important space in the whole building is going to be the lobby, the entry, the passageway, so that people can come in and hang out, even if you don't have a meeting to go to or a class to go to in one of the classrooms there, but just to come and be there and be part of this activity that takes place. So these little boxes show you the building is 100,000 gross square feet. Just for comparison, Kelvin Smith Library is about 140,000. So it's a little bit smaller than Kelvin Smith overall, but a very different kind of building because this building will have a lot of glass. The idea is that you go in the space and you can see what's going on and you feel the activity. Unlike even this building where you come into a room, you have no idea what's going on in the rest of the building. Unless the fire alarm goes off, you don't know anything that's happening. So this building will have lots of open space, lots of transparency, so that even at night when you're outside the building, you'll see it lit up and see activity taking place. But this just kind of gives you a sense of, the proportions of the different activities. Retail is very small compared to a lot of student centers, but the idea of event space, activity space, recreation space, meeting space, that's what really comprises this building. So we've done a lot of work. Right now, the status of this project is that the architect selection process has actually begun. There is, Divya, are you the representative? Oh, okay, I wasn't sure. So we talked a long time to make sure that there would be student representation on the architect selection process, so that's going to be a really important role. And I think the time frame is that the building needs to be completed, so the design and construction, by 2014. That's in the gift agreement. So this is going to happen within your time here on campus. So we've looked at how do spaces work together so that we really get as much synergy out of this building as absolutely possible, and it's going to be a very intense sort of planning process. So this is just an aerial photograph that shows the site, which is somewhere in this big green space. So this is obviously Freiberger Field. I'm sorry if I'm blocking your view, you guys, but the idea, so here's Kelvin Smith again, that somewhere in this area is where this building will be built. It's a complicated site because right there is the roof of the parking garage underneath. There's a structure there and trying to figure out, can the building really be held up by that structure? Do we need to, it's going to be pretty tricky, but it's going to be a very, very visible site. And as you can see, this is East Boulevard. It's the last open space along East Boulevard. So that building is going to have a lot of prominence within University Circle. These were early sketches. They're only concepts. But what they communicate is this idea that it would be transparent, very contemporary, that it would be a place where, whoops, let me go back one. Will that work? Here. There we go, I got it, yeah. So there's the night view of this looking from the lagoon. So it's, about the same height as the Kelvin Smith Library probably. We would love to see a great rooftop garden, a green roof up here so that events could take place up there and you would have this fantastic view of the Fine Arts Garden in University Circle. And big atrium. I think this is the key piece here where you would go into that space, sit down quietly by yourself or with a group of people, get a bite to eat, wait for your next meeting, and not have to feel like you've got to go find a place to hang out where before your next event, that you're really right there. So that's the gist of that. So stay tuned because you're going to hear more. As soon as that architect selection process kicks off, we're going to have to start focus group meetings and there will be student involvement in the planning process. So Uptown, amazing. This really is a remarkable time. It's under construction. This is another project that has been in planning stages for almost 20 years, where the university tried to purchase property and finally fill in some areas of town that are pretty, what do I want to say, blighted. You know, this area down here is kind of neglected. There's a lot of empty retail space. It's never been a place that was vibrant or lively, like it should be right there in the middle of a college campus. So this property right here, the little building you all know as the Triangle, is slated to come down October 15th, so about a month or so from now. The north side of the street, which is the big parking lot owned by University Circle Incorporated, is already dug up. Pretty much the basement of that building is already dug. There's a big pile of dirt, a lot of chain link fences and stuff, and it's really happening. So what is it that's happening? The idea here is to, first of all, build housing that would house graduate professional students. There is not one unit on campus that is for that population. So there are more graduate and professional students than there are undergraduates, but none of them are housed anywhere. So part of the reason for doing this was to look at that situation. But the other goal was to get not just students and not just university-related people here, but create a real true urban district that would have condominiums. Hopefully there would be people who work somewhere downtown, but they come to live here because University Circle is really hopping. And if you read the paper in Cleveland, it's the place where all the development is taking place right now. So what we're doing here is, what's happening? What we're doing here is frozen. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this, cutting edge, right? This is what you think of when you see that area. This is what that area has looked like for a lot of years. This is Tower 1, one of the housing towers that the university purchased as part of this process. And we now maintain these buildings, which actually do house primarily graduate students, residents who work in the hospital, some staff who work in the hospitals. So we will continue to run and maintain these, but the whole goal was to change the whole image of Uptown so it would be contemporary and do something that would sort of play off of these buildings. Unfortunately, they're in very good shape, so we can't tear them down. So this is the plan. The building you just saw in that photograph is that building right here. Okay, that's the big housing tower. So right now, there's just a parking lot from the front face of that building out to Euclid Avenue right here. So what you see under construction now are the first two buildings. This one right here, this egg shape is the first floor, but the upper floor will actually pass over the top and create this J-shaped building. And then on the other side, the second building, also sort of L-shaped. This piece of the building will be our bookstore, and then an opening to cut through at the corner, but up above the building wraps around. And then this will also be retail. We hope a grocery store, but I have to say that deal has not really been finalized, but that's always been the goal, that there be a grocery store, so you guys can live on campus and not have to have a car to go get food. So this is really important in terms of sustainability, in terms of being able to live here easily, and really have this feel more like a real community. The other pieces you're seeing are this little block right here is MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art. If you've never gone to MoCA and you haven't been sort of active at their events, I really suggest that you try it, because MoCA is a real key place in Cleveland in terms of art and culture, and it's a very young community. Yes. Yeah. So MoCA is on Carnegie, and it's in an awful place. It's in a big old, what used to be a Sears Roebuck's department store, and the Playhouse Square is on the other side of the same complex. So Playhouse Square is on Euclid, and if you drive right through their parking lot, you get to MoCA on the other side. Despite their location, MoCA has really expanded over the last, about 10 years. They actually started in a building on the Case campus on Bellflower. They've been all over the place, and now they're back. So they are building a building which I'm going to show you photographs of, but it's the only building I ever saw that when I went through design review for the city of Cleveland, it was not only approved, but it was approved with commendation, because the design of it is so stunning. Yes? That building, so they plan to start construction this October or November, depending on how long it takes them to get the building down, really. And their goal is to be completed in a year and a half, so by spring of 2012, sometime in there. So MoCA's building really sets the tone for Uptown, and it says this is really a place that is about contemporary architecture, not the same old stuff like you just saw a minute ago. The other buildings that are here, this building will come as a phase 2, at some later date. We hope it'll be retail and condominiums. This building will be owned by Case Western Reserve, and we hope it will be retail with housing above, but we don't know for sure. We have to see how the condominium market goes. That'd be the next step. This building that you're seeing up here, right there in yellow, this is the existing CIA building. Maybe some of you have classes up there, and this is their new addition that'll take place. This block over here, which is now a big parking lot, will become also the same kind of mixed-use retail with housing above for CIA students. They want to build their own residence halls, and a parking garage along the railroad tracks. So this is what it's going to look like. It's all along, so this is looking down Euclid Avenue. Our bookstore is on the left. So in this drawing, you're looking east. So the NRV is sort of off to your right. So this shows that the first floor is all glass. The first floor and the second floor are actually the retail spaces, the very tall spaces inside, and then housing up above that. So at nighttime, the light will come out from those retail properties, and you can see that the design of the buildings is very contemporary. It's a metal panel system, and it looks like 4 stories, but in fact, the way this works is that this is one unit right here. And like a unit would have tall windows and a couple of horizontal ones. I think I have a picture of an interior to show you. But, yes?
I know CIA is affiliated with Case.
Yes.
But if they build their own building, is that along with our master plan, or do they have their own? They're slightly
Right,
different, or-
that is their own.
Okay.
It impacts us because they have 100 rooms now. Basically, 100 of their students are in our residence halls. And so it actually would help us in a way, because then we would be able to use those for our own students as the population has grown. But it's nice to have the mix. I mean, I think there have been some kids who have really liked being with other students and have that sort of diversity, let's say. But really, the art students live a very different kind of schedule. They can't use the rooms that they have to paint in and spray mount glue and stuff like that. So they need a different kind of place to live. So they really would like to have them on their side of the campus so that at 3 in the morning when they go home, they're not walking down Euclid. So it's partly a safety issue. So we have worked with them to help them figure out how to plan that, but we will not fund that. We won't have anything to do with funding it. Do you have a question? Yes. Yes, that has already happened. It's been about 3 years of active work with this huge team together. So I represent our interests here at the university in terms of design and planning. We have Russell Baruch, who's head of the retail or commercial property development, so he's engaged at that level. And we have been working very closely with MoCA and with CIA and their architects, and with University Circle Incorporated, with the developers and their architect Stanley Seidowitz, and with the landscape architecture firm Field Operations from New York City. If anybody knows the Highline Park in New York, which is a huge phenomenon, we hired that firm. They are the top firm really in the country for urban spaces, and they are working on the landscape here in Uptown. So it's been an amazing story that I think will probably be written in a couple of architectural journals, because it's a public-private partnership that has gotten a lot of funding from the community to make this happen. So it's really an awesome story, and we won't have all of it done in 3 years, but there will be enough there that it will very much change your experience living on this campus. So this is basically the look. If you were standing in the alley, this is what you would be seeing. So you see the new buildings on your left. Our tower is on the right, and we have just started working with another group of architects who are going to renovate parts of that building and create a cut through there. Yes?
So this is on the corner.
This is on the corner of, yes, 115th and Euclid. Here, let me go back and show you the plan. So that view you just looked at, right, it's between Mayfield. So here is 115th right here. So when you're in the residence halls, and if you're up in the library, which is back here a little bit, and you look out from that little reading room in the tower above Starbucks, yeah, in the clock tower. I mean, it looks like you could literally reach out and touch these buildings. It's so close. So basically, you'll come from down 115th if you live in that area or from these apartments, and this will be a new intersection with crosswalks, and it'll come straight across to the new street that'll be in front of CIA, which eventually will come down here and connect back over to the hospital and Circle Drive and the rest of the campus. Yes? Yes, they have. We've been working with the city, the state of Ohio, Department of Transportation, and RTA. I'm glad you asked that question or raised that because not only have they worked, well, actually when they were building Euclid Corridor, we were working with them back then to shape the Euclid Corridor in this area to lead to this where we are now. But RTA also is involved because the other piece over here that I forgot to mention is, as you pass under Mayfield, that underpass right here that goes into Little Italy, right at the end of it, just before you come into Little Italy, there will be a new rapid station built there, right underneath the bridge. So this has been an amazing partnership because RTA never partnered with any other institutions. Bless you, twice. They never partnered with anybody before, and this past 5 years, they have worked with us on 2 rapid stations. I'm going to show you the one at Cedar Avenue. I don't have the drawings for this one, but next time we meet, I will have them, so we can see what that looks like. But this station is so interesting because for the longest time, Little Italy said, we don't want a rapid station, no way. And finally, when they saw what was happening here and they realized, we're not trying to take over Little Italy. We're trying to create something vibrant that will bring more people and more people to Little Italy. They were the ones then that came to RTA and said, okay, we want the rapid station here. So now they became the sponsors of the rapid station, and it is a funded project. It's going to be built within the next 3 years. So I don't know the exact start dates. They're actually trying to move it ahead, do both stations at one time. But that is a really important thing because basically if you live, downtown, you'd be able to take the rapid there and get to the campus much more easily and through a much more interesting area than what we have now. Yes?
Are they going to have to knock down anything with what you're doing? I don't think there's a lot of room.
No, they won't have to knock down anything. Because actually what they discovered is in the railroad tracks that are there, half of them are owned by the railroads and the other half are owned by the Rapid Transit Authority. Underneath the Rapid Transit Bridge, there actually had been a station there about 85 years ago, or a really long time ago, that was built in under the bridge. So when they started excavating and doing tests, they discovered, it was not in any drawing, they discovered this station that was in behind a big concrete wall. So they're pulling the concrete down, and they will have to rebuild it, because it's, it was pretty old and decrepit. There was a reason why they closed it up with concrete. But now they're going to pull that out, and that space will become the new station. So it's really very cool to see that.
If we could hold the remainder of questions till the end of the presentation.
Yeah, but keep your questions, don't forget. So these are the pictures of Uptown. So this gives you a little better feel. You can tell the building will have this very, very slick, contemporary look. The designer is a guy named Stanley Seidowitz in San Francisco. I did get to go see some of his buildings and see the quality of the building, because this could mean a lot of different things. But when you see the design of this, it's very well done. It's very well engineered, and it has a look that is going to be extremely classy. This is Euclid Avenue again. This I want to show you, and it's the first time I've shown these pictures actually on our campus. This is Mocha's building, which was under wraps forever. They just weren't sharing anything because they wanted it to be a real smash in the press, and it was. So this shows, what will happen even while things are under construction. This is the one building over by Tower 1. This is the second building on this side of the street. Here's Hessler right here. So here's 115th is over on this side. So here's Mocha's building, which will sit on a plaza, and for a while we won't have a building right behind it like that other plan showed. But Mocha is going to be really the key piece right there at the intersection of Mayfield, Ford, and Euclid. It's basically made out of black stainless steel. And this is the view of it from Euclid as you're heading towards the campus. So the new housing is sort of behind you. And this building at night, I think, really will be very active. It's not a lot of square footage. MoCA, you may not know, but MoCA does not have a collection. They aren't a collecting museum. They're an exhibiting museum. Because if you think about it, contemporary art is not contemporary for very long. Pretty soon, you're onto something else. So they're all about trends and really cutting edge current stuff. So one of the things they plan to do actually is, which they do now, is from this plaza, project movies and exhibits on the exterior of the building and hold events in that space so that you can come in every, Thursday night every 2 weeks or something is movie night at MoCA so that people can go there. They have great parties, incredible parties, and really sort of mind-blowing exhibits, I would say. So this is it as you're heading towards that new housing, coming from the campus. So this building looks very different on every side. It's an extremely radical kind of design, and we think is a good partner to the Peter Lewis building, frankly, which is just a block away across the street. Okay, now some a little more tame, but pretty amazing. So this is the corner of Euclid and Adelbert we're going to talk about. So I just mentioned coming in that the sign, so here's Euclid, of course, here's Adelbert, here's Severance Hall. So just to get your bearings, whole different scale here. So this is the corner where that sign has been for whatever X number of years of UH's. And, UH's plan has changed a lot. They're building a new emergency room, which I should have a picture of here, but basically as you go down to Delbert now, you're seeing that construction. Sorry, I think my laser's wearing out. You're seeing the construction across the street from us of their new emergency room and the huge building, which is their new cancer hospital. We did work with them on those. We didn't always win because, for example, there is going to be an ambulance drive right. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be able to show you this. There's going to be an ambulance drive sort of along Euclid where ambulances will be able to get into that emergency room. But the main entrance is actually going to be off of Euclid. So we hope it's not going to impact the traffic here too much. But what I want to talk about here really is the intersection. If you don't know this, one important thing to know is that right now we have one crosswalk that comes across on the east side of this intersection. When we worked with RTA and Euclid Corridor, there were two crosswalks. And there were actually two crosswalks. Some of you may remember that you'd come across and you could pick one. So when we designed the Baker Walkway, it was with the idea that there would actually be a crosswalk that would go diagonally through that intersection. That all the traffic for vehicles would stop, so that all the pedestrian traffic could go, and then they would switch the lights back on and let the traffic move. That was the deal we had cut with the city. At the very last minute, they changed their mind. And they said, sorry, we're not giving you that other crosswalk because we think it's going to screw up the traffic flow for people heading out to the eastern or western suburbs. So this will go on for years. I mean, we will go back to them and say, we have gone back to them, we're still fighting to get that other intersection back. But until that happens, we knew we had to open up this corner so there's someplace to stand. So if you haven't seen these, this is what is going to start under construction in the next couple of hours, basically. The idea that we were looking at here, first of all, we did go through and replace a lot of trees. You may not know that, but a lot of the trees on Adelbert started to die or they were cut down by some local hospital, and we put them back. Because that is really important in terms of this whole idea of a pedestrian environment. This shouldn't be a highway. It's not just about the roads and the cars, it's about the people who are here. So we keep pushing that agenda. But the idea we had was, so you see up there at the corner, was to take that little seat wall that's there, get rid of the sign, push the seat wall back, and open up the corner. These were the first sort of early drawings, which I think are at least 2 years old. We have now developed a plan where we're cutting back much bigger area, and it is a big broad curve. What you're seeing here is the red is brick. The white is all the concrete that already exists out there right now. But where that red line is really where the walls are right now. So all of that will be cut back. I think it's about 18 feet from the corner to the wall where this will cut back to on both sides. And so then there's a little bit of a hillside behind it, but basically it opens it up and creates a big seat there. It's still being designed in terms of the details of the stone, but, oops, it froze up again. Did I do something wrong? Oh, okay. So that's what this will look like. It will be big. So hopefully this will be the place where, when your parents come for commencement, you'll sit there in your gown, have a picture taken, prom night. You guys have prom night? No. Well, those great nights. After a party at Mocha, you'll come on down, sit on the bench, wait for people. I think it's going to really help this corner, not only to make it safer, which is really our primary concern, but also to start to create an image here, an identity that this is a campus environment and it's here for people and not just for the cars. Okay? So this is in process and you should be seeing something very soon. Okay, this is big. Everybody's probably heard about the Temple project. So anybody here, performing arts, music, dance, or theater involvement at all? Play a violin? Yes, dancers? Okay, well, it is a really remarkable project. We are now in the midst of planning. If you haven't heard about this project, okay, we have on the westernmost side, you can see where it says West Campus here, that sort of Ohio-shaped parcel of land. That is 14 acres of land that is slated to become a research park, the West Campus. When we did the planning for the West Campus, we never thought that we would ever own or acquire the temple, which is the adjacent parcel. So the Temple Tifereth Israel is the building, if you haven't seen it or haven't really read about this story, it's the building that as you look across the Fine Arts Garden, it has this golden dome on the top of it. It's a very, very sort of romantic European-looking building, and it's on the crest of a hill, so it has a very commanding sort of location within University Circle. One of the reasons this acquisition is so important is not just because it gives a home for performing arts, which we certainly do not have and have needed for a long time, but because it starts to break down the barrier between the neighborhoods that surround this campus and the campus itself. So whereas the Rockefeller Park, so everything in the light green, the lagoon that's there in blue, where the museum is, they're all kind of isolated. It's a barrier, really, between the neighborhoods and University Circle, Cleveland's cultural hub. And this starts to say our campus extends across that and embraces that landscape so that we really become a bigger part of the community. It's also a great thing because the temple, the congregation who's been in there has been out of that building for almost 20 years. They moved out to the eastern suburbs. They built a new sanctuary. So the building is starting to deteriorate because nobody uses it. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's a charter school in the building. But there has to be investment in a building like that or it won't survive very long. The charter school doesn't plan to be there forever. They have to locate because they need a bigger building. So by the university taking this on and giving it a good use for its next life, it means the building will be saved. It's a historic landmark. It has incredible history in terms of Cleveland. And there were developers looking at buying the property and knocking it down. So when you talk about sustainability, reusing an existing building is probably the best thing we can do. And we think it's going to make a remarkable facility. So I'll go through this quickly. 7 acres, so the land around it is also going to be taken over by the university. Now, what I should make clear is the deal we have cut with the temple and also with the donor, Milton and Tamar Maltz, have given $12 million already to get this started. We are still trying to raise about 13 more million because we have about a $25.5 million budget for renovation. The building isn't for performing arts right now, so it takes a lot of work to bring it up to speed. So we are still fundraising, and the university will only take this on if we raise all that money and can do the renovation. So we're in the planning process, working with the faculty. We believe it will happen, but it isn't signed, on the dotted line quite yet. Basically, the site, you see the building, there's a garden or a park that goes with it and the parking lot, and it's all along 105th Street. So we won't wait for these, but basically this is what the building footprint looks like. It's 100,000 gross square feet. That seems to be the running number now. That's what the University Center is also, but this is a very different 100,000 square feet. If we were measuring volume, this is probably about 3 times what the University Center will be, because these are enormous, massive spaces. This room here is the sanctuary. If you've never been in it, it's worth going to look at. And I'd love to take this group over. If you ever had time, a night you want to do a field trip instead of a meeting, let me know. That room has a ceiling in it that is 81 feet high. I mean, this is a magnificent space. But it also includes 2 classroom wings and another theater on a lower level. A balcony space up above. This is what that space looks like now. And this is what it looks like from the stage looking out into the sanctuary, big balcony. It seats 1,800 people. So we will be able to have an entire class come over here for presentations or do, whatever. This is the idea for how this will look, where we'll do a sort of acoustical shell really behind the stage where the orchestra will be, put in real theater seating, lighting. It actually will not serve as a theater for drama or dance. This space will be dedicated only to music and to lectures. Because of the way the building is built, you couldn't really have a great operating theater for dance or drama. But there is a second theater downstairs that will be renovated to accommodate both of those. So this is from the stage looking out and getting some sense of the real amazing character of this building. But there's a whole second half to the building. So what you're seeing here, it's not a great drawing, but it's what we have. It shows that there's another 550-seat theater in the lower level of this building that looks like this. And we will tear out the ceiling of this and open it up and make a bigger stage and shrink down the seating. There's a lot of work to do, but we'll reshape this to create a 250-seat theater for drama. Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then there's a third theater that I hope shows up in this next plan. Okay, I have to go back one. That's right, okay, so you can't quite see it here, but, so that, where it says auditorium, that's the theater I just showed you. Right next to it, and where it says social hall, it's a 2-story space that will become a big black box theater. So there will be the big concert hall upstairs with a small recital hall for 150. There will also be this 250-seat theater for drama and dance and the black box theater. So that is a remarkable complex. We've actually had a hard time finding other universities that have anything close to all of that in one building. So all of those faculty members will go there. So you might ask, how am I getting over there? Because right now that park is right in between, and that park where Rockefeller Park is between the Art Museum and the West Campus was not really meant as a pathway. There is no pathway through there to get over to the other side. It's kind of forlorn looking in terms of a landscape, but that is Frederick Law Olmsted was probably the most famous landscape architect in the world, possibly, who did a lot of work for Rockefeller when Rockefeller lived here in Cleveland for many years. And Rockefeller obviously paid for this park, but it is a great amenity, and we think this is one way to bring that back up to its sort of original grandeur. So as you'll see in our master plan, the idea is to create a pedestrian bridge that goes through that park. And we've looked at a lot of different things. I can't show you those drawings yet, but pretty soon we'll be able to share where we're going. It's pretty amazing, dramatic. There was a little article about it in the paper recently with Steve Litt. But we haven't shown any images yet because they're still sort of premature. But next time we meet, I'd love to share that with you. But basically, it will be a pedestrian pathway that gets you right across to a new street the city is going to build between the West Campus and the Temple. So that'll be a bike path. It'll be a place you can go running. It's a place you can take your Segway or your golf cart, if you have one, and get over there, because that is going to be the easiest way, and we think the safest way to get back and forth. So that linkage, a long time ago, somebody else did a study and showed, to bridge over MLK so you don't have to deal with any of the traffic as you're getting there is really the goal of this bridge. So this isn't really what it's going to look like, but it gives you some idea of the scale of what it would be like. It also helps us start connecting now to this neighborhood. And I just want to keep reiterating that this kind of activity, that the university is making these investments over there, eventually what this is going to lead to is that housing will be rebuilt in this neighborhood that could be graduate, professional students, students with families, faculty members, and alumni, because people want to be near the campus. But right now there's no great housing stock. So we think this is already catalyzing development over on that side of the park. Okay, now, am I running out of time?
Yeah, I think we can talk about the climate.
Later? Okay, so let's talk, so the last one is much more interesting. Well, I shouldn't say that. The climate action plan is interesting, but it's not like this. It's critical, and eventually the climate action plan will lead to a new master plan. So all of this kind of just keeps going around, and everything influences every other project. And the climate action plan is key to that. Okay, so I'm going to end with the Cedar Rapids Station. So this one is one that I would think all of you would use. Probably a lot of you use the one that's there now. How many of you have used the Cedar Rapids Station? Okay, I apologize. We have it though. I mean, at least Cleveland does have the rapid transit system. And someday that can be a great system again when they have money to invest. But the tracks underground and all of that infrastructure is here. And a lot of cities really don't even have that. So what we're doing here is the second rapid station I'm going to show you that was designed by a really famous guy who just does transit stations. Nodney is his name, and he's also from San Francisco. And we have worked very closely with RTA on this project because this will actually be the University Rapid Station. And because the park, so what you're looking at here, the big strong green line are the railroad tracks and the rapid tracks going overhead. So Cedar Hill comes down and curves around. You see Lincoln Storage Building. I don't know if you guys all know what that building is. Yeah, it's totally dead. And then the back of Veal, that's the sort of V-shaped building at the very top of the drawing. So what's happening here is that the station will be rebuilt sort of in its current location, just to the right of the bridge. The green space along the roadway, that little park that's across from the residence halls, we have actually taken a lease out on that property so that we can landscape it and improve that landscape. We can't build on it, but we can make that a more appealing park. And the station will be right on the edge of that little park. Right now, I should have a before drawing because this little sort of peninsula on this side of the bridge is where the bus turnaround is. So you must know that place. A million buses, it's all concrete. And usually all those kids from Cleveland School of the Arts are in the middle of that street, trying to make their way back and forth to the bus station because they're a predominant user of the buses. It's completely unsafe, and it is the most highly trafficked piece of roadway in the city of Cleveland at 8 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the evening. So this is a serious issue we've been working on for a couple years to look at how we would reconstruct this intersection and make it more pedestrian friendly, but also incorporate this rapid station. So the plan here is to take the buses and move them up to the other side of the street. So the bus traffic and the rapid are both on the same side of the street. So people will be able to get out at the rapid station and walk under the bridge and get on a bus and keep going for a lot of people who really depend on public transportation. For you, what it would mean is if you arrive at that rapid station, you'll be able to go under the bridge and get into the Veal building at the bottom with card key access. There's a lobby already in place and an elevator, and go up to the Case Quad. So rather than having to walk sort of through Little Italy from the rapid station, you'll have a connection right there at that point. So it's kind of complicated to describe without a good pointer, but it's going to be a major difference in terms of your connectivity to that system. So this station, this is showing on the right-hand side, the Cedar, as you come down Cedar Road, you go under, the first bridge is actually the Rapids RTA's bridge. The other ones are the railroad bridges. So that whole underpass is going to be renovated as part of this project because obviously it's one of the worst experiences on campus to walk under that bridge. So that has got to change, and that is part of this project. This shows, right, what I was trying to describe. The building on the right is our Lincoln Storage Building. The building on the left is the bottom of Veal. So what you're seeing here, the white stripes, are really the lanes where the buses will come through, pick people up, drop them off, and keep going. So it'll be at the base of our own building. Oh yeah, this is cool the way he did this. I don't know how this technology works. So then as you keep going down, this is the roadway under the railroad tracks, coming over to where the plaza in front of the station would be, and another drop-off. So this is sort of going up Cedar Hill. So these were all the different ideas, but this is the scheme that was finally selected. So what you're seeing here, this is looking from Cedar Avenue, basically. The new station basically will be a large green rooftop. It'll all look like a landscape from above. And then the wall that you see as you're coming down the street is just a huge glass wall, and you look right in through the building to the tracks. So that sense of safety, because you can see where you're going, you can see who's in there before you actually get to the building and have to go into it. Big change over what's there now. And then a big plaza out in front of it that would be a place where you wouldn't feel like You're not supposed to be. Right now, if you go over there, there's so many steps up and down. It's almost impossible to get in and out of that building. But this is looked at as something completely different. This is it in plan. This shows as you come into the building, this is a plan as if you took the roof off. You'll still go in and up an elevator or a flight of stairs to get to the platform. Going here. And then this shows that the platform itself at the top, that orange element shows that as you come up onto the platform, there'll actually be a big room that's enclosed, so that in the wintertime you don't have to stand outside. But then the rest of that orange covering is just the long sort of platform, so that from a distance you'll really see this as a kind of iconic element along Cedar Avenue. So that's what it'll look like actually as you're coming down the street towards Cedar. Very different sort of character, obviously, than what's there. And we think on the inside, too, it'll have some public art incorporated into the station. This is what it would look like if you're up in the, on the platform in the sheltered area. You'll actually be able to look through windows down into the station. So that is all about security and making people feel like they know who's there. So nobody's going to walk up and surprise you there. So this is up on the platform just before you get hit. So this is what the structure looks like at the very end. Very contemporary and really remarkable of RTA, I think, to take this kind of risk and design a building so contemporary. So that's where we are. That's what we've got going. And I don't know if we have time for questions or if we should wait till another time.
We have time for 3 questions, and then we'll refer the rest to email. So
Okay.
any questions? Representative Hahn.
Like arts.
Yes.
Once you have that building up, was there any talk about security issues? Have kind of who be responsible for? Because I know in the past,
Yes, that's a really good question, and it's definitely a high point in all of our discussions about the temple. The campus security will definitely be expanding their route, basically. We have talked about, especially on that bridge, that there would be cameras, and maybe like Officer Mark, who's out there at the corner, that there would be somebody who basically rides a bike around that whole district, just sort of constantly, between the bridge and the building, to make sure that there are, that it's being watched. It's not just open for anything to occur, like it is now, really. But the biggest thing is really that by doing the temple and getting that whole body of students going back and forth, that's where the security comes from. It's a lot of people. We figured there will be over 1,000 students every day walking over to use that facility back and forth. The shuttle routes will be increased, and we are really pushing hard, especially with the Climate Action Plan, to change the shuttle routes so that they really serve the needs of you and that they get there when you need them to get there, as opposed to, I know it's not quite perfect, so that's got to be improved. So we are thinking about security a lot and what happens over there.
Vice President Hamilton.
I'm curious about
Right. Well, I think the value of of many of those houses is, you could probably buy a lot for $2,000. I mean, a house in some cases, but it's probably a house that has to be torn down. So you spend more, tearing it down and doing whatever. The value on those properties has started to actually shift the other direction now that there is a plan for Upper Chester as a development plan. The county has participated in this and put a fund together to assemble parcels and get developer money coming into Cleveland to rebuild. So as soon as those developers actually start the rebuilding, the property values will start to go up. It's actually kind of a problem for the people who live there because they don't want to leave and we don't want them to leave either. We don't want the neighborhood to be gentrified so that the people who have lived there historically are forced out. So it's a very complex issue, but one that we're very aware of. We support the idea that there would be affordable housing as part of the mix, and that certain houses and blocks, certain percentage, would be officially sort of set up forever as affordable housing that could not be resold at a higher value. So it's complicated, but that's the general direction.
Representative Lupton.
I was wondering, do you have any say when it comes to, I heard there's a wind turbine going to be put up outside of Veal. It also is on the lines of sustainability with these structures that you talked about. Is there any geothermal heating, solar panels? I mean, what are you guys looking into that? Is that something that you definitely talk about?
All of the above.
Okay.
So yes, when we sited the wind turbine, I was heavily involved. We actually were trying to site 3 of them on the campus. So we did a lot of work to pick that site so that it wouldn't actually be near housing where the strobing would bother people or any sort of mild noises that might come from it. We don't think it's really an issue, but it's the kind of thing a lot of communities have opposed about wind turbines. So we thought, we'll get this one up first and convince people that it's actually a beautiful structure. It's very elegant, and we hope to build a lot more of them on this campus. That one won't really be focused on power generation. It's mostly for research and experimentation, but we will learn from it and hopefully be able to keep going with turbines. Solar, I don't know if you know, but the first solar installation on campus is actually going up right now on top of the Adelbert Gym. Seems like an unlikely building for a solar roof, but we have joined a huge initiative through the Cleveland Foundation, basically, that is the Evergreen Cooperative. The purpose of the Evergreen Cooperative partly is to bring jobs back to Cleveland and build community wealth. So they have established a number of cooperatives where all of the employees have ownership in the company. So this is an amazing story on its own, but the solar cooperative has been established. We have, Dr. Inamori, who established the Center for Ethics here at Case, also happens to own one of the biggest solar panel manufacturing companies in the world. And so he loved this idea of the cooperative. So we have basically cut a deal with them, and we are getting Kyocera solar panels at an unbelievable rate. And they are giving us however many of them we need. Supply with solar panels is an issue around the world. But this industry is just starting, so our first installation is going in now, and we plan to put solar on as many rooftops as we can, really, over time. It's very costly as an initial capital outlay, but as we go into the climate action plan and we need to show that we're reducing our carbon footprint, that's one of many ways we're going to be working. So, and then geothermal, we don't have a geothermal field, but MOCA's building is powered by geothermal. And so that field will actually be on the MOCA Plaza, the open space behind MOCA, which we own. So it's kind of complicated. We will have a geothermal field, but it'll actually be powering MOCA's building. But again, every time we do one of those, it's a learning curve, and it brings people more to a better comfort level so that we can start changing the way we've been doing things and do them in a more sustainable way. So they're all historic, really an amazing time, and I'm happy I could come share it with all of you. It's a really great time to be here. So thank you. Thank you very much.
And again, any additional questions or comments, we can hopefully include Margaret's email in our minutes, and you can refer your questions by email to her. But with that, we will move into committee reports. Just as a reminder, please save all points for discussion for open forum, and anything that can be any initiative suggestions or suggestions for the vice presidents, please email those. So President Wynn.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for paying attention and being attentive during Margaret's presentation. It's very exciting stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there because this is a plan that has been ongoing for several years. And it so happens that this is one of the years in which everything is starting, it seems like. So very exciting stuff. And this is the stuff that I want you guys to kind of go to your constituents and tell them that this is what we're doing as a university. This is why, we're here, what we're starting. A lot of these issues or concerns have been brought up by USG. So for that reason, we've had quite a good hand in a lot of this work. With my board report, there's not much to talk about. Homecoming is fast approaching. USG is involved in a lot of things this year. We will be basically everywhere. You can read my board report. I was trying to be funny in several ways, and it may not have happened that way. But I will be coming around with volunteer sign-up sheets, and we'll be distributing those to your individual committees. Please take the time to sign up for a time slot to be a representative of the USG during these homecoming events. Other than that, if you're interested in the Compass, I know Margaret had mentioned the Compass Committee, that is the Committee on Master Plan and Student Space. Please come see me or email me, and I will talk to you further about that. Also, take your survey about the retreat. I am open to points. Yes? We will win this year, yes.
Any other points for the speaker? Thank you, President Nguyen. Vice President Agarwal?
Hello, everyone. So yeah, everything pretty much in my board report, my meetings, and just want to, for assigned initiatives, the reason I mentioned the representatives who are working on those, that if you have any questions or any, comments, advice, or help you can offer these, your fellow representatives to work on these projects, please let them know. I want to bring your attention to the student life issue of the week, which are, of course, those little pests, the midges. I really don't like them, but word that's going around is that they should be gone really soon, hopefully. If they're still bothering you, bug spray in Wade and Fribley, although I'm hearing that students are not bringing those back. They're keeping them. So I've sent an email to Alma Sea Lion of Housing asking her to supply more of this bug spray for students to use. If it's really bothering you, get your own bug spray. And if it's an emergency, file a maintenance request and they should come within 24 hours. So with that, I'm open to points.
Any points for Vice President Agarwal?
Thank you.
Yes. Vice President Downey?
All right, I'll be short. My board report has everything that I have, but I just want to draw your attention to the two things. First of all, the electronic filing will start this week, which means that we will no longer be keeping all of our records in paper form in the filing cabinets in the USG office. All previous years will still be there in paper form, but from this year on, they'll all be electronic, which will hopefully be a little easier for everyone to access, a little more secure, and a space saver for us. The other thing that we have is that the online rolling funding forms, which is an embedded Google form on the USG website, is now live as of tonight. And so paper forms will no longer be necessary, although we will still take them for a couple weeks, just because I know not everyone will get the word out as quickly, but I'm open to points.
Vice President Maloney?
Nope. I know.
Okay. Representative Lupton?
For Finance Committee, should we start bringing a laptop? Like, should everyone bring a laptop to committee because everything's going online now? Like,
That's
is that
actually not
recommended?
necessary. So I've talked to Arlette, who's in charge of facilities, or sort of, in charge of facilities at Twing, and we have the projector, and I'm gonna have the screen in there every single committee meeting, so everything will be up on the screen, or should be. But yeah, that's a good point.
Any other points for the speaker? Thank you, Vice President Downey. Treasurer Moser? Seeing none, Vice President Hamilton.
I'd like to thank everyone that attended the Assistant Dean Search Committee lunches with the two candidates today and sometime last week. I can't quite remember. Everything else is in my board report. I'm open to points.
Okay, seeing none, Vice President Bell?
Due to time constraints, Representative Spotlight will begin next week. See me afterwards for a shirt, and the date for Pizza Olympics is confirmed. I'm open to points. It's October 29th, 12:30 to 2.
Any points for Vice President Bell? Okay, Vice President Maloney.
We had our first IT committee meeting this week with all of our new at-large representatives, so that was pretty exciting. We had a good time. We had pizza and got some stuff done, so that was good. And we assigned members to work on the various initiatives that we have planned. The initiatives are actually listed on the USG website on the IT committee page if anybody's interested in looking at them. And we also appointed representatives to ITSPAC and the ITSPAC CSS subcommittee meetings. Open to points.
Any points for Vice President Maloney? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into caucus reports. Are there any caucus reports? Okay, with that, we'll move into old business. Is there any old business from the floor? We do have some trick old business from this past week, so if you could please stand up if it was your birthday within the last few days. Secretary Mueller and Representative DeBoss. Anyone else? We're going to sing a really quick version of Happy Birthday for them. After they stand up.
Stand up, birthdays. Birthdays.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Happy birthday to you.
Okay, is there any other old business? Seeing none, we will move into new business. President Nguyen.
I move to open nominations for the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing representative position.
Okay, so nominations are now open for the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing representative. We have one position open. This will be elected next week, so candidates will be contacted via email for a letter of intent. So are there any nominations at this time? Yes. This is a different position, so they will need to be renominated. President Nguyen.
I nominate Jake Kenny.
Any other nominations? Representative Matthews.
Spell that.
Is there a second? Any other nominations? Vice President Downey?
Point of clarification, do we have the second nomination?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no more nominations, those will remain open until next week or until the position is filled. If you have additional nominations through the week, please contact Parliamentarian Brubaker. Is there any other new business? President Nguyen.
I would like to move into approval of the USG Judicial Board.
Okay. So Parliamentarian Brubaker, would you give us a brief overview of your judicial board?
All right. Hello, everyone. Just real quick, part of my job as parliamentarian is to appoint a judicial board in charge of internal oversight of USG, as well as constitutional review at the end of the year. Now, I have 5 members here that I have nominated, and after this, you will vote on them. A majority vote is required to approve them. I have Leah Epstein, a nursing major, 2nd year, a Spartan ambassador, member of Hillel, the Jewish Student Society, and a Sister of Sigma Psi. Alicia Beckett, a senior computer engineering representative, former varsity volleyball player for 3 years and has studied abroad in France. Chris Linderwell, 3rd year accounting major, VP of Finance for IFC. Andrew Brown, 2nd year economics, psychology, and chemistry major, pre-med, RA, and representative for arts and sciences. And Joe Fogarty, 3rd year pre-law student, history and accounting major, was on judicial board last year, and is the former VP of the chess club. I'm open to points. Any questions you may have about the nominees? I know I went through that really fast.
Any points for Parliamentarian Brubaker? Representative Lupton.
Yeah, possibly a stupid question, but all of these people that you nominated have already said yes?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Any other points for the speaker?
I think I want to clarify. I think they know, right, that it has to be approved by the Assembly. Correct?
Yes, they know.
It still is room for discussion.
Mhm.
Any other points? Thank you, Parliamentarian Brubaker. With that, if there is a speaker in the con, you're welcome to be recognized at this time. But seeing none, we'll move into a 2-minute discussion of the Judicial Board. Points for discussion. Representative Thompson.
I tried to find a balance of year, major, career goal, campus involvement, And I tried to get as many people from outside USG as possible. However, that didn't work out the way I planned, so you'll see that there is a little more of a balance of people who are familiar with USG.
Representative Durbeck?
I've explained to them what their responsibilities will be throughout the year, and we will be reviewing the Constitution together throughout the year, discussing it. I will kind of guide those discussions, but at the end, they're the people who are going to help me improve our bylaws, improve our Constitution, and make this organization function better.
Any other points? As a point of inquiry, is there a first-year student on the judicial board?
There is not, and I don't think there has been.
Okay. Any other points for discussion? Secretary Mueller?
I move to vote by acclamation.
You cannot do that, but someone else can, if you would like. Vice President Downey?
Actually, just move to end discussion, I guess.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we're now voting to end discussion, which requires a majority vote. So if you are in favor of ending discussion, please signify by raising your hand. Elected representatives only, please. And proxies. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, discussion is now closed. Representative Hahn? Is there any dissent? Okay, with that, if you are in, I think that just means it passes. Yep, so there we go. Congratulations, Judicial Board. Representative Beckett. Any other new business? President Wynn.
I move to introduce Bill B 20-01.
Okay. And as a reminder, bills must be tabled for a period of 1 week, though we will have a speaker and a pro and discussion period for the amount of time should you choose. So is there a speaker in the pro? Vice President Downey.
Okay, so pretty much what this is just recognizing student groups since the start of this year. Some student groups that people have come forward with new ideas or didn't have the necessary people to do it at last mass funding. Our Constitution and bylaws allows us to recognize new groups now before the next phase of mass funding. So that's all this is. And it's just the following groups on here: Pre-Dental Society, Point Club, Student Golf Association, Case Unicycling Club, Journal Distribution Club, and College Trivia Club. Does anyone have any questions on what those groups are, what they do?
Vice President Hamilton.
Can you tell me the largest club and the smallest club?
In terms of what? Members?
Members.
Out of these, it is probably going to be, I think it's the Pre-Dental Society, actually, in terms of members. None of them are too big now because they're just starting. You have to have 10 members to start one. I think Pre-Dental is at like 18, 19, I think. The others are like 12 or 13.
Any other points for the speaker? Representative Lupton. Grant.
On your recognition stuff by October 22nd, recognition, or I mean, what does that mean?
So, yeah, no, so even though we're recognizing them now, they'll still have to resubmit in the next recognition phase for mass funding. That's all that means. So if they were recognized during the regular mass funding last time, they would still have this stipulation on it.
Colleen.
So do you mean you're having recognition second semester as well?
Yeah, so especially with the new Collegiate Link system coming in, if it's re-recognizing the student group, all they have to do is go in, confirm that that's what they still have, hit OK. It's not like resubmitting all these forms again. We'll just send them a request to make sure they still want to be a USG group, and they'll just sign off on the forms that are already there. So it should be a 5-minute process or less. What is it? Okay, all right.
Representative Thompson.
Well, shouldn't the recognitions expire?
No, so the funding would expire in December, but because the new recognition starts when the mass funding for this semester starts, because we're switching over to collegiate link system. Does that make sense?
But the problem is that until the bill is passed
Mm-hmm.
for next semester, they are recognized. Even if they're applying for recognition, they would be approved until the next semester. And if you say October 22nd, that means that they're not recognized because it is not officially done until this body approves all of the recognition in a bill.
Okay, I'm going off precedent right now because I was looking through the previous bills and I was pretty sure the recognition lasted for the spring semester goes to like June, and for this one it would be. Okay, I'll go back and do my homework a little more, and I'll come back and I'll have a revised copy, I guess.
That can always be made in revisions and discussion of the bill next
Right.
week before it's voted on.
Yeah.
Representative Lupton.
I was just going to say, I always thought, well, we could talk about it next week.
Okay, all right.
Any other points? Vice President Agarwal.
Yeah. So the point the Point Club is a ballet club, and right now they're starting with a few advanced members that want to practice their techniques, but they're also going to try to bring in new members that don't know ballet and teach them according to their mission statement. And then the Journal Distribution Club was previously recognized previous years, but they didn't get their forms in for this last mass funding. So now they have. But what they do is they raise money and then they send medical documents to disadvantaged countries like Africa or other places where they can't afford to buy them. And so it's an outreach club, social service. Yeah.
Any other points about the bill for Vice President Downey? Okay. Thank you. Is there a speaker in the con? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into a 2-minute discussion. Keep in mind that this bill will need to be tabled at the end of discussion for voting next week. So any points for discussion this week? Representative Cummins. Okay, all in favor of tabling Bill B 20-01, please raise your hand. Elected representatives only. All opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Bill B 20-01 is tabled until further notice. Is there any other new business? Vice President Agarwal. Is there a speaker in the pro? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you, Vice
Okay,
President.
so because usually in the past, this was one bill that was brought together, but because of the way Collegiate Link works, there's a certain recognition phase, and then they don't necessarily have to do mass funding with that to get money. So that's why this is broken up into 2 bills, in case you were wondering. But what this is just rolling funding for this semester. So any rolling funding forms that groups have turned in that they've asked for new events, new items, whatever, or the mass funding for these clubs. Only I think one of them is actually on here, because that's all that's been submitted up to this point. That is what is entailed in this. And on the general budget for USG, this is our line item that says rolling funding, just as an FYI. But the expenses are totaled in Appendix A on the back, in case you have questions.
President Nguyen.
Can you go into the Coalition for Collaboration and Creativity? There's an item there that says meeting to various items for $40. What was that for?
So it's part of our funding bylaws that we fund the first meeting to try to get more students out to a group, but we don't fund food for groups 2, second, third, fourth, however many meetings they have. So we're not just going to pay for their food for all those other meetings. So that's just kind of been our policy, and that's why we had to turn this down.
Vice President Agarwal. That can be made as an amendment when we move into discussion. Any other points for Vice President Downey? Okay. Seeing none, is there a speaker in the con? Okay, we'll move into a 2-minute discussion on Bill 20-02. Vice President Agarwal.
Oh. That was for, separate document that's about like 10 pages long. Yeah, so it wasn't printed out. That's why the numbers are off. Requested. Didn't want to waste all the paper.
Any other points for discussion? Vice President Hamilton.
This might not be relevant, but the case for site, did they decide on doing their event this coming week?
Yes, they did. So we had a discussion with Krishna, who's the president, and they had too much PR. They had already accepted money for some of the tickets. So he said that it was too late to like postpone it to work with them on that. So he decided to go ahead with that. And because of that, the allocation reflects that, the kind of rushed nature of that. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Point of information, if the spot is free on Thursdays, why is there a spot fee?
He requested the spot fee, but we did not allocate it for that reason. Because
there's not one. Spectacular. Any other points for discussion? Representative Lupton.
I don't want to move Bill B 20-.
You would move to table Bill B-2002. No, you move.
I move to table Bill B 20-.
Okay. It automatically ends discussion when you do that before the time has lapsed. So all in favor of tabling Bill B 20-02? All opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Bill B 20-02 is tabled until further notice. Is there any other new business? Seeing none, we'll move into open forum. Again, if your comment can be taken care of via email, for example, the printer in Wade is out of paper, please refer those questions via email to the appropriate vice president or committee. Any points for open forum? President Nguyen.
Again, thank you guys so much for paying attention to Margaret. If anyone has any further questions, you can email me and I will forward those concerns to Margaret. I don't think you guys, anyone would know her email. So just email it to me and I'll forward it to her.
Representative Lupton.
My main question was active, who are the nursing reps right now? So somebody stepped down. I know at retreat, we haven't really been seeing two of the nursing reps come. Are they both here tonight? Cool. Oh, okay. Yeah, you guys. Okay. Okay. Do you know who was the vacancy?
Colin Lux resigned.
Colin Lux. Okay. And he's now the open rep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other points for open forum? Representative Brown. Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Advisors report.
Okay, so I didn't get a chance to meet many of you, and I'm so sorry about that. I had a family emergency at the retreat. I was one snapping. So my goal is to get to know you, many of you. So hopefully I'll be able to do that through committees or through projects we're working on. But my role as advisor is so varied. It's whatever you need it to be. And I work closest with the executive board, but I also like to help committees when needed. So please let me know what you need. In interest of time, I wanted to talk about the outcomes, which I believe are in your notebooks. Allie, yes?
Yes.
Okay, but we won't do that. We're going to do it next week. I'd like to talk about that. I'd like to talk about value-based commitments on the committee. So next week, I'll put it on the agenda, and I'll cover it then. I do have a couple things, though, I really need to talk to you about. One is I know Ministry has mentioned the 5K, and in his report indicated that we need volunteers. We'll send this out an announcement to, like a homecoming update, I think, to let you know what our needs are. But there's a couple things that I need you to do tonight, if you would. One is, if you run, or perhaps you know runners, take the flyer. Okay, it has all the information on registering for the event and whatnot. But this is, if you, especially as a co-sponsor, I would love to see the students participate. Last year we raised so much money. We raised over $2,000, and I'd like to do that again this year because it goes directly back to the students who receive the scholarship. So I'll have these here. And then, as Ministry mentioned, there'll be volunteer needs there as well. This Saturday is the Leadership Conference. I know that you retreated last weekend. No, weekend before. Wait, yeah, weekend before. But anyway, this is a great opportunity for you to come and meet student leaders from other organizations, have great discussions. I think there's some presenters in this room, right? How many presenters are there? Okay, so there are sessions that run the gamut in terms of your leadership training needs. You can go online and take a look at the sessions, and I hope you will come. But if you are interested, I also have a sign-up sheet to help volunteer. This is very focused on student planning teams, presenters, et cetera, et cetera. So if you'd like to help out, we would really appreciate it. I have a sign-up sheet for that as well. And I think, one more thing. September 29th, USG is participating in the decorating contest. But I do need judges, so I need somebody impartial. I need a couple people who are impartial. I'd really love from 12 to 3 on September 29th, which is, I think it's next Wednesday. I need judges to go around and judge the entrance. So 12 to 3, I've never used all 3 hours, but I always leave it open in case I have like 10 million participating. Right now I have 12, and that number will get bigger. So if you're interested, I'd love to have you judges. Okay? And all of this will be sent out. And I did send the registration flyer to you tonight in the office, so we'll have that information. But anyway, welcome to an exceptional organization, one of which is my privilege to advise. And I really, truly mean that. And hopefully through the year we'll have direct contact. I really hope that happens. I'll be here every week.
Any questions for Colleen? Okay, seeing none, we're now in announcements. Secretary Mueller.
As Colleen mentioned, the Fall Leadership Conference is the 25th, and one of the sessions, especially if you're interested in a lot of the stuff Margaret was talking about, one of the sessions is about planning the campus center. So if you're really interested in that, there's a session for you there. So go to the Fall Leadership Conference.
Are there any other announcements in addition to those that are printed in the agenda? Representative Lupton.
Say that over the course of the past 5 years, this was probably one of the most exciting speeches I've ever heard. This is a really huge time for the university. So I know something, Compass, Mintry mentioned they need people getting involved in this organization, Compass. And I really think freshmen, especially, this is the time. There's a lot of change going to be on campus over the next 4 years. This is really exciting. So if you have a passion for getting involved, this is the time to get involved. So I'm jealous that I'm not going to be here any longer, but it'll be fun.
So am I.
Any other announcements? Representative Hahn. We are now adjourned.
I was wearing this outfit and I